Okay, kiddos, now let's welcome back to Unit 10. We're going to talk about chords, secants, and inscribed angles in 10.5. So, when a chord intersects a tangent line or another chord, so we're talking about when these happen, what are the relationships between the angles and the arcs formed? So, we've talked about this a little bit. Now, let's refresh a little bit and then go into more in depth. So, first off, let's talk about right over here. All right, so let's talk about first if the vertex is on the center. So I know that looks a little off, but if we see it right over there, if the vertex is on the center, we're going to call that a central angle. Okay, and what is the relationship between the angle from the center and the arc that it creates, right? So let's go ahead and highlight the angle. Okay, so and then let's scribble the arc. Okay, so scribble the arc that it creates. Okay, so that's what we want to do on all these examples. So what do we do? On that one, let's look at this example right over here. So if this is that, then that's it. So what do we know? They are equal to each other, right? So that's going to be equal to the arc. The central angle is going to be equal to the arc. Okay, so it's pretty straightforward on that one. Then we talked about this one right over here, right? So this one, let's go ahead and highlight the angle. Okay, so if we're talking about this right over here, and let's do the scribble on the arc. So if we scribble this over the arc, let's look where the vertex is. The vertex is on the circle. Okay, so when the vertex is on the circle, like it is right over here, what's the relationship? Okay, so we said if that's called an inscribed angle. Okay, inscribed angle is equal to the arc divided by 2, right? So that's the relationship between these two. And so we just need to remember the central angle, if it's at the center, the arc is the same, and then inscribed, the arc is twice as much as that angle, or the angle is half as much, right? So we practice that again in our warm-up, so that should be good. Now let's talk about a couple other varieties. Now that we got that down, let's talk about this one right over here. Okay, so this is called when the vertex is on the interior, but not at the center. Okay, but not at the center. Okay, so when it's on the inside, but not at the center. Okay, so if we see right over here, let's go ahead and put a dot right over there. Okay, that's where the vertex is, right? So that's what we want to context where the vertex is. Okay, so let's go ahead and highlight this angle right over here. Okay, so if I highlight this angle right over here, now let's think of it as these two lines just crossing. Okay, and if I'm thinking about this angle, okay, let's go ahead and do the arc, right? So that's the arc that it creates. Now, let's think about this other one right over here. Okay, so that one is what we call these two angles, if you recall, are vertical angles, right? So we practiced before, whenever we have two lines that cross, the angles across from each other are called vertical angles because they share that same vertex, right? So those are congruent. So they're the equal measure. So if this is a certain measure, that's also the same measure, okay? So keeping that in mind, okay, if we're looking for this angle right over here, it's always going to be the same as this right here. So we're going to look for, so either of those angles are going to be the same. So let's go ahead and mark those two arcs that created it. Okay, so on this one, so when the vertex is at the center, okay, we're going to do that. But when it's inside but not at the center, we're going to say, what am I doing here? Okay, we're going to say that the angle is equal to the arc, the first arc, so we're going to call that arc sub 1 plus the second arc, so arc sub 2, and then we divide it by 2. Okay, so we're just going to add this and then divide it by 2. So if we look right over here on this 100, right, let's go ahead and highlight that 100 degrees. Okay, that one right there. Let's go ahead and do the two arcs that were created, right? That and that, right? So this one is 120 and that's 80. So what we're going to say is 100, right? The angle is equal to 120 plus 80 divided by 2. And that is correct because that gives us 100, which is equal to 200 over 2, and that's equal to 100. Okay, so that's the rule when we're talking about inside but not at the center. Okay, now our last one that we're going to talk about, this was where the vertex is on the center. This is inside, inside. This is exterior. So this is when it's on the outside. Okay, so let's go ahead and highlight that angle. Okay, and let's go and scribble those arcs. So we know this arc right over here, right? And we also know this arc right over here. So now this is very similar. Okay, so this is the angle is equal to, and we're going to do this and divide by 2. But this one, when it's on the inside, we're going to add. This one's on the outside, we're going to subtract. Okay, so we're going to say the first arc, so arc sub 1 minus the second arc, so arc sub 2. Okay, so that's the difference between those two. So you can think when it's on the inside, we add. Inside, we add. Okay, and then we can think when it's on the outside, we subtract. So outside, we subtract. All right, so those are the basics of the rules. All right, so let's get right into some practice with that. So if we look at this problem right over here, let's look at analyze it. Right, so here's how we can problem solve. Where is the vertex? Okay, so that's what we always want to ask. Where is the vertex? Okay, so let's go ahead and put a dot right there. And now let's read through the question. Okay, so this says, if measurement of PJ is 85. Okay, so PJ, and we know that's an arc, right? Because it says arc. Arc, PJ is 85. Let's go and mark that 85. Then it says arc RT is 163. So let's go ahead and mark that. R to T is 163. Okay, they want us to find that angle, PBJ. Let's trace that out. PBJ. PBJ. Okay, so the vertex is where? It's inside, right? So we said our rule was, right, if it's on the inside, okay, we said our rule is the angle is equal to the arc adding divide by 2, right? So we said the angle is equal to the arc 1 plus the arc sub 2, right, divided by 2, right? So now let's fill that in. Okay, so the angle, so we're going to say the measurement of angle PBJ, right, is equal to 163, which is the first arc, plus 85, which is the second arc, divided by 2, right? So we remember, once we do the hard part, we can let our calculator do all that. So we can just type that in the calculator if we want, but let's do that by hand. Okay, so let's think about that. 163 plus the 85. Let's do the last digits, the 3 and the 5, right? Give us an 8. Okay, then the 6 and 8 gives us 14, right? So we're going to write down the 4. We're going to carry the 1 up there, right? So the 1 and the 1 gives us 2. 248 divided by 2, right? So now we can do that too, right? Half of each of these, right? So half of 8, half of 4, half of 2. So half of 8 gives us 4, right? Half of 4 gives us 2, half of 2 gives us 1. So that's our answer on that one is 124 degrees. All right, so what we did to problem solve that one, we just looked where the vertex was. The vertex was inside, and so, but not at the center. And so we said arc plus arc divided by 2. All right, so let's keep that in mind as we go on to the next page. Okay, so now let's think about these. We talked about how we're going to approach these, right? We're going to think, where is the vertex? Where's the vertex location? Right, that's our main question. So if it's in the center of the circle, what do we say? The angle is what? Angle equals the arc, right? If it's on the circle, what do we say? We said the angle equals the arc divided by 2, right? We said if it's inside but not at the center, we said the angle equals the arcs added, right? Plus arc 2 divided by 2. And if it's outside, we subtract, right? So we said the angle equals the arc 1 plus the arc 2. Oh, I'm sorry, minus, right? Thanks for catching that. That's good. Arc 1 minus arc 2 divided by 2. All right, so let's think about those and analyze these and go for it. So think about this one. Think about how you're going to approach it and pause the video, see what you can do. All right, so what we see on this one is says if arc HV is 38, so H to V is 38. Okay, arc ID is 120, so I to D is 120. Okay, the vertex is outside. Okay, so since this is outside, okay, let's go ahead and trace our angle. So we're talking about that angle right there because it says find measurement of angle A. You can go and box that, what we're trying to find, right? So when it's on the outside, we said the angle is equal to the arcs minus each other, right? Subtracting. All right, so let's go ahead and fill that in. All right, so the angle, which is measurement of angle A, right, is equal to, we said we're going to subtract and divide by 2, right? So which one goes first, 120 or 38? Well, we always want the larger number first, right? So let's put that first, right? 120 minus 38. Okay, so now remember, these are all numbers that we can just put into our calculator just like that, and that would give us the answer. Okay, but let's go ahead and do it by hand for those students that want to do it by hand. 120 minus 38. I would round that up to 40, right? 120 minus 40 is 80, right? And then if I back off 2, so 2 would be 82, right? And then divide by 2, right? So then we can divide both of those by 2, right? Half of 2 and half of 8, right? Half of 2 gives us 1, half of 8 gives us 4, so that's our answer, is 41 degrees. Okay, so we can just put that right into Desmos and then get that answer. All right, so it's as simple as that. Once we figure out where the vertex is, we're going to use that formula. All right, let's keep it moving. See if you can get this next one on your own or at least set it up. All right, so let's see. It says JD is tangent at point J. So we know it's tangent right there, and JQ is a secant line. Okay, so this is describing those lines. It says measurement of that arc JQ is 132. So from J to Q is 132, right? Find the measurement of angle QJD. Trace it out. Q to J to D. All right, well, what do we know? This one is on the circle, right? So since it's on the circle, what's our rule? We said if it's on the circle, there we're going to say the angle is equal to the arc divided by 2, right? So that's all we got to think about. This is, now we got to think, we're not thinking about this arc, we're looking at what is inside there, what's created. So it looks a little weird, but this is how we look at what's created because it's inside there, right? So it's just 132 divided by 2, right? So we're going to just say the measurement of angle QJD is equal to 132 divided by 2. Okay, so if we put that in our calculator, that's going to give us 66 degrees. And that's our answer. All right, boom, just like that. Right. So what we do is we just problem solve, think about how we need to approach it, and then go from there. All right, so these next ones are higher level questions that I know you can do. We just got to think of them on a higher level. All right, so I want you on this first one. Think about how we would approach this and think about what formula we would use and go ahead and set up everything. All right, so let's go and read through it. It says this measurement of that arc, EM is 122. So from E to M, okay, is 122. It says measurement of angle UCR is 130. So that's an angle UCR, okay, and that's 130. So this right here is 130 degrees. Okay, find UR. So they want us to find this arc. Okay, so this is a higher level question, but so I know you can do this if we think about it correctly. So just stick with me. Let's go ahead and, what do we mark that? Well, we don't know. We're going to put an X there. All right, so think about which formula we're going to use. Where's the vertex? That's correct. The vertex is inside, right? So inside, but we don't know if it's at the center or not. So we'll just say inside. So on that one, what's our formula? What did we say? We said the angle is equal to the adding of the arcs divided by 2, right? Arc 1 plus arc 2 divided by 2. So let's set it up. Okay, so we know it's going to be equal and like that. So Let's just fill in everything where it goes. Now this is higher level. We're trying to find this other arc. We haven't done that yet before they gave us the 2 arcs. So think about how you would set that up. Pause the video, see if you can set that up. All right, so here's what we know. 130 is the angle, right? The angle we said goes over here. So 130 would go over there. Okay. Next, we said the arcs are right here and here. So we don't know which one is the bigger one, right? So that doesn't really matter though because we are adding those. So let's just go and put 122 plus x, right? 122 plus x divided by 2. Okay, so that's all we did is we just filled in where they go. Now, I know that looks a little gross. Pause the video, see if you know how to solve that, and then I'll show you the easy way. All right, so hopefully you tried that, but that's okay if you got a little stuck. Here's the way I look at it. That looks weird, gross, but how about if I make both sides a fraction and cross multiply, right? So if I put that over 1, that makes a fraction. So now let's do our butterflies. I got that and that and that and that. Now, this one does not have an x in it. This one does. So I like starting with that first. So 1 times anything is still the same thing, right? So 1 times 122 plus x is just 122 plus x, right? Equals 2 times 130. So we can do that. 2 times 130 is going to be 260, right? Okay, now that we set it up, we just solve, right? So we're going to subtract 122 from both sides. All right, cancel that out. X is going to be equal to 138 degrees. Okay, so that's a higher level question, but you can do it, right? All you got to do is think about how to set it up and then how to solve it. So that's our problem solving techniques. All right, so keep it moving. This is the next one, next little higher level one. See how you would think about setting this one up. Do as much as you can setting this one up. All right, so let's read through it. It says GU is 42. So GU is an arc that's 42, right? Angle A is 44. So let's trace out the angle. Angle A means the vertex is just at A, right? That's what that means. And we said that is 44. Okay, find LI. That's the arc. So we're trying to find this arc right over here, LI, right? So let's mark that with an X. So think about how you would set that up and at least write the formula right over here. Okay, well, where is it at? This is on the outside, right? So we said the outside means the angle is equal to the difference, right? So we're going to say the arc 1 minus the arc 2 divided by 2. All right, so that's the difference, right? If it's on the inside, we're going to add. If it's on the outside, we're going to subtract. So go ahead and see if you can set that up. Pause the video and try. All right, hopefully you tried. Let's go ahead and set it up, right? So we know it's equal in the angle, right? That's 2. We know it's a minus right there, right? So let's set it up. Where does the 44 go? 44 is the angle, right? So the 44 goes right over there. Okay. Where does the 42 go? 42 is one of the arcs. Is that the big one or the small one? That's the small one, right? The other one is the big one, x. So let's just put that x minus 42. All right, so we filled everything in. Now, pause the video, see if you can solve it. All right, hopefully you paused it. We're just going to put it over 1, right? And then we're just going to do our cross multiplication, right? That times that. So that gives us x minus 42 equals double 44, which is 88, right? Okay, then we're just going to add 42. Add 42. Right, cancels. X equals. We can do that. The 8 and the 2 gives us a 1, 0. We're going to carry the 1. 9 plus 4 is 130 degrees, right? So you can just type that into Desmos if you like, of course, right? Otherwise, we can do it by hand. The simple stuff, at least you can do by hand. Right now, here's the last one, higher level question. All right, so see if you can problem solve this one on your own. All right, so let's look through it. It says this is tangent at point R, right? So that means it touches right over there. If RJX is 268, RJX, so it's not this way, right? Not to RX. We have to go through the J, RJX. Let's go ahead and trace that out, scribble that out because we said that was an arc, right? And we said that was 268. Okay, find angle XRI. Let's trace that out. X to R to I. Okay, so think about that and how you would problem solve that and write what formula you think. Okay, well, what do we know? It's on the circle, right? If it's on the circle, here's our formula. The angle is equal to the arc divided by 2, right? We remember that. But now let's think about this. A common mistake would say 268 divided by 2, right? But it's not that, right? It's not 268 divided by 2, right? It is this angle right over here. That arc that we're talking about, right? That is with this angle, right? This angle creates this arc. That's what we need to remember. This one is created by that one. So this creates this. So that's the rule. How much is this? Think about that for a moment. It's a higher level question. How much is this? Well, what do we know? The whole thing is how much? 360 degrees, right? So if that's 268 degrees, we could figure this out by subtracting. That's right. So we would say this one is equal to 360 degrees minus 268, right? So put that into our Desmos, that would come out with 92 degrees, right? So if that's 92, then we can use our formula, right? So we said the angle is equal to the arc divided by 2. So that means that measurement of angle XRI is equal to 92 divided by 2, which is 46 degrees. Okay, so that's a higher level question, but I know you can get that. All we have to do is just think about where they're at. So let me know if you have any questions on these. All we got to do is just have those questions about where is that vertex and just follow the correct order.